Okay, so today, welcome to today's session. Today we're going to cover what we started in term 4 for grade 8. So far, guys, we are going to be taking poetry, okay? And along with poetry, we're going to be taking, along with poetry, we're going to be starting chapter. We're going to be starting chapter, I believe, 10 in our grammar book, okay? So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to start with you guys with poetry, okay? And if you may, you guys can turn to page number in your books. If you guys go to page number 576, we are going to start by basically learning about the basics of poetry. Okay, and the basics of poetry, basically, they mention the main things that you need to know about a poem. All right, the first thing that we discussed is the poem's form. Okay, and when we discuss form, we're basically discussing how the poem looks on paper. If you look at the structure of a poem is structured differently than drama. In a drama, we agreed that we see stage directions. We also see conversation and dialogue between characters. However, in a drama, in poetry, we see different. Okay, we see a title. Of course, we understand the person that created the poem is called the poet. Okay, we also know that a poem is broken down into lines. Okay, and we know that a group of lines put together, each group of lines put together is called a stanza. Okay, and the first poem that we're going to be reading together is the Willow and the Ginkgo. Okay, and this is going to be our first poem that we're going to read and analyze. We're going to start doing that in class today. Okay, so please keep in mind that we're doing poetry. Yesterday, I posted on SMS a sheet called poetic devices or an introduction to poetry. If you guys go to your assignments and you go to the folder titled Term for Poetry, okay, you'll see that there's a PowerPoint presentation that I posted along with an introduction to poetry worksheet. Okay, the intro to poetry worksheet, if you guys open it with me, okay, you should have downloaded it yesterday because that was yesterday's work. Okay, if you guys open this worksheet with me, you will see that we have here the first question is form. Okay, the form is basically the form of a poem is what we said. Okay, it's basically the structure of how the poem is written, or the written structure of the poem. All right, poems are made up of lines. Okay, we said lines, and when they're grouped together, they become a stanza. We need to understand that stanzas, they perform the same way that a paragraph does in in an essay. Okay, when you have a paragraph in an essay, what do we do? Why do we use paragraphs in essays? Do you guys know? Because again, because we separate ideas. We use it to separate ideas. Okay, and of course here we need to separate ideas, and also in poetry. So usually when a poet decides to break down into paragraphs, he or she is basically doing that the same way a paragraph is done, to separate ideas. Okay, then we discussed that poetry could be written in two different styles. Okay, we can have a traditional poetry, and traditional poetry is when you follow rules. Okay, here a poet needs to follow certain rules, like for example, a haiku, a certain number of lines, a certain number of like maybe the rhythm is has to be fixed and consistent. Also, we will see that with traditional poetry, not only is rhythm fixed, we can also see the number of lines in each stanza is usually also fixed. Okay, we also see that sometimes we have a fixed rhyme scheme like AA, BB, CC, and we're going to discuss rhyme scheme later. Okay, we looked at two examples in the book. If you follow with me on page 576, there's an example one that's called The Geese. Okay, this is a poem called The Geese by Richard Peck. Okay, the first stanza says, "My father was the first to hear the passage of the geese each fall. passing above the house so near. Okay, so here when we discuss rhyme scheme, we're looking at the end words or the ending rhyme. Here we see the word here rhymes with the word near. So this is line one rhyming with line three. So that would be A, and the letter on the line three would also be A. Line two ends in fall, and line four ends in call. So that would be BB. So the rhyme scheme for stanza number one would be AB, AB. Okay, and then if we go down, we'll see say lasts with day, CD, CD. So this, by looking at it, and we see that there's a fixed number of lines in each poem. Again, it gives us a hint that this is traditional. All right. So again, traditional poetry is when a poet has to follow or adhere to certain rules that pertain to a certain number of lines in each stanza. Maybe there's a regular pattern of rhythm and rhyme. Okay, this is how you could identify that this is more of a traditional poem. All right, you usually free verse. The poet is free. Okay, just the way it says, free verse, free. Okay, they do not have to. Uh, um, uh, we do not have to basically follow rules. To the poet is even free to actually do what? To actually make up. Even if he or she wants to write grammatically incorrect words, he or she is permitted to do that in free verse. Okay, if they want to write in a incorrect spelling, it's also permitted in free verse. Why? Because at the end of the day, the poet wants to send a certain message. Okay, he or she is free to do that. Alrighty, so that being said, who's the speaker? A speaker is usually the voice that talks to the reader. Okay, as an audience, we are the audience who are reading the poem. We need to understand who's the speaker that's talking to us. And when we discuss the word speaker, speaker means basically an online a speaker here means that the voice that speaks to you. Who can the speaker be? A speaker could be a character in the poem. It could be the poet itself. It could be a child. It could be an adult. It could be an object. All right. If we look at the PowerPoint presentation that I also posted for you, there's a section at the end of the PowerPoint that discusses with you who could possibly be a speaker. If we look at this poem, it says the cardboard ceiling lifts. Pick me, pick me, pick me, I pray. The fingers do, they choose me, sky blue. Hooray, hooray. All right, so here the speaker is actually a crayon. All right, it's an actual crayon discussing his or its excitement, sorry, about being chosen by the person that's coloring. Okay, so if you are, once you see that the lid of the box is open, the crayon is excited about being chosen. All right, so basically the speaker here is an actual crayon. All right, if you look here, we'll see heavy hot hangs, thick sticky icky, but I lie, nose high, cool pool, no fool, a turtle in July. Here the speaker is a turtle. Okay, the speaker is an animal. Okay, so again, the whole point of this lesson is to show you that a speaker could be an object, it could be an animal, it could be a person. Okay, so you could have a variety, and it also could be the poet. But is it always the poet? Because we have this misunderstanding that the speaker is always the poet. It's not. Okay, it's not. You have to read and identify the speaker on your own. Okay, guys. Here again, we stopped here yesterday in class about the difference between sound devices and figurative language. Sound devices are divided into categories, and we mentioned them here. Okay, when we discuss sound devices, if you guys go to page number 578 in the book, you have a list of devices, of sound devices. These sound devices are the devices that we're going to discuss. One of them is rhythm, the other one is rhyme. Okay, rhyme is a sound device. Repetition, okay, is a sound device. Alliteration, all right, is a sound device. Assonance is a sound device. And we also added All right, onomatopoeia. We also added onomatopoeia because it's also a sound device. Figurative language, we're concerned with simile, a metaphor. All right. Also, we have here also imagery because we see it, and we also have hyperbole. Okay, because it's used in poems sometimes. All right. The difference between sound devices and figurative language: sound devices, they actually create a musical tone to the poem, like rhyme. Okay, hat. Okay, you feel like you're it's the poem is actually, it's helping the poem almost become musical. Okay, but with figurative language is quite different, because figurative language is usually we see when it's used in a descriptive manner. Okay, when you need to describe something, or when you're describing something through comparisons or through exaggeration or so on. Okay, so again, sound devices, the purpose behind them is to add a musical tone to the poem, to making it musical. Okay, again, but again, figurative language is more concerned with comparisons. All right, today we're going to take each figurative language and each sound device, and we're going to describe it using our PowerPoint. So you guys can start doing that on your own. Okay, until I create a video for it. All right, and also you are going to be required to answering these questions. All right, these are poems, examples of poems, and I ask you to underline the simile, to underline the metaphor, basically to underline the personification. Okay, and personification, by the way, is included in the figurative language. I forgot to add that here. Personification. Okay, so in figurative language, we're concerned with simile, metaphor, imagery, hyperbole, and personification. We need to be able to detect the following things in the actual poem. All right, so this is for poetic devices. As for grammar, we started to take chapter 10. Okay, and for chapter 10, we are concerned with uh, um, okay, we're looking at chapter 10. Chapter 10 is all about pronouns and how to use pronouns correctly. Okay, we discussed that pronouns in the class. We only discussed the case. Okay, pronouns come with three different cases. All right, the first case is the nominative case, and we need to memorize them. The second case is the objective case, and the third case is the, besides the nominative objective, we have the final one, which is the possessive case. All right, these are our cases for pronouns. Now we need to break them down and understand and remember them. Okay, we did this and we answered an activity, an exercise in class, and you also had homework in the workbook. Okay, so what you have to do is just list the pronouns. Like, for example, the nominative case, we know we use the pronoun I. Okay, and I in the objective case is used as me. When you're showing possessive case, when you're showing possessive means ownership, when something is my, all right, or I use mine. Okay, this is the idea. All right, this is the idea. We did that for singular nouns and for plural nouns. Okay, he, okay, is nominative. We use it as a subject, and we're going to discuss the nominative case today in class. I'm going to go into detail today about when is the nominative case used or how is it used. Okay, the objective case is him. Okay, and then again, to show possession, I'm saying his. She, all right, she is her, and again we have her, we also have hers in this sense. Okay, then we move on to it stays the same as it and the objective. In the possessive, it's its, and be careful, it's without a apostrophe. Okay, then we move on to the next case, which is going to be we. All right, and here us, and then to show ownership, we say our, or we say ours. Okay, so your job today, I need you to memorize the chart that I'm creating. All right, to know and identify that this is nominative. I use it in the nominative case. These are the objective case pronouns, and these are the possessive case pronouns. and then I'm going to go into each case and I'm going to explain it to you thoroughly. Today, I'm going to start with nominative in the classroom. We also have the next pronoun, which is they. It's going to be them. And to show ownership, we say their or theirs. And remember that you're spelling it Their, the correct spelling for there, not the other there when you're pointing at something. Okay. The next one is you. This is stays the same. You and your and yours. Okay, so again, we answered an exercise in the classroom. It was, I believe, exercise one that is listed. Okay, I need you guys to answer that in your notebooks and send it to me. And we also had homework. If you guys looked in your weekly plan, you'll see that you had to do homework, and it was in the workbook. And I believe it was the first page, which is related to the case. Okay, if we look at the case here, it's going to be on page number 164 in the grammar workbook. That needs to be done and submitted. And we need to do, you guys also had to answer because you didn't do the classwork with me. So please answer exercise number 1 on page 263. The only thing that you have to do is read the sentence and find the pronoun and identify which case is it in. Is it the objective, the nominative, or the possessive? But before you do that, you need to have this chart that I made with you memorized. I is nominative, me is objective, mine is possessive. He is nominative, him is objective, his is possessive. Go through this chart, memorize it, answer exercise 1 in the grammar book, textbook, okay, page number is 263, and answer page 164 in the grammar workbook. Answer also your poetic devices worksheet. And when we meet again, you can ask me any questions that you have related to poetic devices. Today, I'm going to go over my poetic devices, the figurative language, and the sound devices, and I'm going to make a video for it. And we're going to start analyzing The Willow and the Ginkgo, which is your first poem. We're going to only analyze stanza number 1 and 2 after we read about the poet Eve Merriam. Okay? And today, we're also planning on covering the nominative case in the classroom. Okay, so any questions about anything that I shared with you today that I have done in class so far? Any questions, any concerns?
No, thank you.
Okay, Faruha. Hala?
No.
Okay, Jenna? I just need to ask, is iPhone user Adam? Is it Adam? Are you is it Adam?
Oh, yes.
The iPhone user here, there's a name called iPhone. Is that Adam? Okay, guys, I'm going to post this video and for you to watch it again. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Please do not forget to email me your work, the Poetic Devices worksheet. You can hand it in by tomorrow, and the grammar workbook by today, please. And also exercise number 1 in the textbook. Okay, hand it by tonight, please. All right, by email, or you can send it to me on Messenger. Both are acceptable, or on SMS. Okay?
Okay,
Okay,
thank
thank
you.
you guys. Thank you. Thank you guys. Take care. Bye.